Hey guys, welcome back to the Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled people's story. I bought my house about a year ago. The property had this amazing in-ground pool that was honestly the main reason I purchased it. The previous owner was an elderly gentleman who rarely used it and kept to himself. The house is in a weird location. Technically, my address is on a different street than the houses behind me, which are part of this fancy HOA community. My backyard directly borders their common area, but my property is completely separate and not subject to their rules. When I was house hunting, avoiding HOAs was one of my top priorities. I've heard too many horror stories about power-tripping board members and ridiculous restrictions. So I specifically confirmed with my real estate agent and through the title search that this property wasn't part of any HOA after moving in. I spent about $15,000 renovating the pool area. I replaced the cracked concrete around it, added some nice loungers, put in a small outdoor kitchen area, and installed color-changing LED lights in the pool. It went from looking abandoned to being this beautiful oasis. I was so proud of how it turned out. During the renovation, my contractor mentioned something interesting. He said the previous owner had apparently had some issues with people from the neighboring houses trying to use his pool. I didn't think much of it at the time. The pool had been neglected for years before I bought the place, so I figured nobody would want to use it in that condition anyway. Fast forward to a scorching Saturday in July. I invited a few friends over for a pool day. We were having a great time, music playing at a reasonable volume, grilling some burgers, and cooling off in the water. Around 2 p.m., I noticed this woman standing at the fence that separates my property from the HOA common area. She was just watching us. At first, I ignored her, but after about 15 minutes of creepy staring, she called out to me. "Excuse me, the community pool isn't supposed to be used until after 4 p.m. on weekends." I was confused. I swam over to the edge of the pool closer to her. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" I asked. "I said," she replied in that tone people use when they think you're being deliberately obtuse, "that residents aren't allowed to use the community pool until after 4 p.m. on weekends. It's clearly stated in the HOA bylaws." I got out of the pool and walked toward the fence. "This isn't a community pool. This is my private pool on my property." She laughed like I'd told a joke. No, this is the neighborhood pool. It's always been part of our community amenities." "I'm afraid you're mistaken," I said politely. "I bought this house last year, and the pool comes with my property." Her face changed from smug to indignant in an instant. "That's not possible. This pool has always been for the use of our community. The previous owner had an arrangement with us." "Well, I don't know anything about any arrangement, but I own this property, including the pool. It's not part of your HOA. She crossed her arms. "I've lived here for 8 years. This has always been our community pool. The previous owner allowed us to use it because he understood it was the right thing to do." "I'm sorry, but that's not correct. This is my private property." "I'm on the HOA board," she said, as if that gave her some kind of authority over me. "And I know for a fact that this pool area is part of our common property." "It's really not," I insisted, starting to get annoyed. "I have the property documents that clearly show the boundaries." "Well, those must be wrong then," she said dismissively. "I'm going to have to ask you and your guests to leave until the designated hours." I almost laughed. "I'm not leaving my own backyard. Again, this is my private property, not part of your HOA. If you don't leave immediately, I'll call security," she threatened. "Go ahead," I replied. "This is my property, and you're the one trespassing by trying to come onto it." She pulled out her phone and made a call. I went back to my friends, explaining the weird situation. We decided to continue our pool party, but kept an eye on the fence. About 20 minutes later, a middle-aged man in khaki shorts and a polo shirt appeared next to the woman. He introduced himself as the HOA president. The woman, who I'd started mentally referring to as Karen, had clearly worked him up. "Sir, there seems to be a misunderstanding," he said in a condescending tone. "This pool facility is part of our community amenities." I sighed and grabbed my phone. "Look, I can show you my property documents that clearly indicate the pool is on my land." I pulled up the property survey that I had saved from when I bought the house and showed it to him. He barely glanced at it. "This doesn't look official," he said dismissively. "Our HOA records clearly show this recreational area as part of our common property." He then pulled out a folded paper from his pocket and unfolded it to show me a map. It was clearly outdated, probably from when the development was first built. "See here? This whole section is marked as community space." I looked at it and immediately spotted the issue. That map is outdated. The property lines were redrawn before the previous owner purchased this house, which was about 20 years ago. By this point, a small crowd of neighbors had gathered behind the fence, watching the drama unfold. I was starting to feel uncomfortable with all the attention, but I wasn't about to be bullied out of my own backyard. The previous owner allowed us to use the pool, the HOA president insisted. We had an arrangement. Well, I'm the current owner, and I have no such arrangement. This is my private property. Karen had been fuming silently, but now she burst out. If you won't respect our community rules, I'm calling the police. For what? I asked incredulously. I'm on my own property. For trespassing on HOA property, she snapped, already dialing. I shrugged and went back to my friends. Looks like the police are coming to my pool party, I joked, though I was actually getting pretty stressed about the situation. About half an hour later, 2 police officers showed up. One of them came through my house after I answered the front door, while the other apparently spoke with Karen and the HOA president at the fence. The officer who came through my house was a woman in her 30s. She looked professional, but seemed slightly amused by the situation. So, she said, I understand there's a property dispute. I explained the situation and showed her my deed and property survey. She looked them over carefully. These appear to be in order, she said. Let me go talk to the other parties. I followed her out to the backyard where the other officer was already telling Karen and the HOA president that they needed to calm down. When our officer showed them my documentation, Karen practically snatched it out of her hands to scrutinize it. This can't be right, she insisted. We've always had access to this pool. It's listed as one of our community amenities. The first officer, whose nameplate read Rodriguez, looked at Karen with an expression that suggested she'd dealt with this kind of situation before. Ma'am, according to the official county records, this pool is clearly on private property. It belongs to the homeowner. But we've been using it for years, the HOA president protested. The previous owner never had an issue with it. Officer Rodriguez's eyebrows went up. You've been entering this property without the current owner's permission? The HOA president stammered. We had an understanding with the previous owner. And did you have that understanding in writing? She asked. Well, no, but it was common knowledge in the community, he replied, looking increasingly uncomfortable. The second officer, who had been mostly quiet, now spoke up. If the previous owner allowed you to use his pool, that was his choice, but that doesn't transfer to the new owner, and it certainly doesn't make the property yours. Karen wasn't backing down. We have adverse possession rights. We've been using this facility openly for years. Officer Rodriguez shook her head. That's not how adverse possession works, ma'am. You would need to have been using it without the owner's permission, and it would take much longer than just a few years. Plus, if the previous owner gave permission, that negates any adverse possession claim. We're going to pursue this legally, the HOA president stated firmly. Our residents were promised a community pool, and our documentation shows this as common area. You're welcome to consult with an attorney, Officer Rodriguez replied calmly. But for now, I need to inform you that entering this property without the owner's permission would constitute trespassing. Karen looked like she might explode. So you're just going to let him steal our community pool? Ma'am, he didn't steal anything. He purchased this property legally, including the pool. Now, I'd suggest you step away from his fence and respect his private property rights. After the police left, the HOA folks retreated, but not before Karen shouted, "This isn't over," in a truly dramatic fashion. That evening, I did some digging online and found the HOA website. To my shock, they had photos of my pool listed as a community amenity. There were even schedules posted for pool hours and rules about guest policies. No wonder they were so convinced it was theirs. They'd been advertising it as such. The next day, I contacted a real estate attorney who specialized in HOA disputes. After reviewing my documents and the situation, he confirmed I was 100% in the right and suggested we take immediate action. First, we sent a formal cease and desist letter to the HOA demanding they remove all references to my pool from their materials and website and explicitly forbidding any HOA residents from entering my property. While waiting for their response, I installed security cameras around the pool area. Good thing I did because the footage from the first week showed at least 3 different groups of people attempting to enter my backyard through the gate and the fence. Some even had keys, which meant the HOA had been distributing access to my property. The HOA board called an emergency meeting, which I learned about from a sympathetic neighbor who disagreed with how the board was handling the situation. This neighbor discreetly told me the board had voted to pursue legal action against me, claiming they had easement rights to the pool based on historical use. My attorney was unimpressed with their claim. He explained that easements typically need to be recorded on the deed, and there was nothing of the sort on my property. Furthermore, he pointed out that their advertising of my private pool as a community amenity could be considered fraudulent. We decided to escalate. My attorney prepared a countersuit for trespassing, false advertising, and harassment. We included the security footage of people trying to enter my property after being explicitly told not to, as well as screenshots from their website showing my pool. When the HOA attorney received our countersuit threat, things changed quickly. Within days, we received a call requesting a settlement meeting. My attorney advised me that they likely realized their position was untenable. At the settlement meeting, the HOA representatives were much less aggressive than Karen and the president had been. Their lawyer had clearly explained the reality of the situation to them. We reached an agreement that included a formal acknowledgement that the pool and surrounding area was my private property, removal of all materials, advertising the pool as an HOA amenity, a payment of $7,500 for the trespassing and false advertising coverage of my legal fees, which amounted to about $3,200. The HOA also agreed to send a community-wide notice clarifying that the pool was private property and not to be accessed by residents. I used part of the settlement money to build a taller privacy fence with better security features. I also learned from my sympathetic neighbor that Karen had been removed from the HOA board after the other members realized her actions had cost them over $10,000 and considerable embarrassment. The funniest part came about 2 months later. I received a letter from a real estate agent working in the area. Apparently, home values in the HOA had dropped slightly after they had to remove the community pool from their amenities list. The agent was actually inquiring if I'd be interested in selling my property to the HOA so they could legitimately make the pool a community feature. I declined, of course. By that point, I'd developed decent relationships with some of the more reasonable neighbors who had reached out to apologize for the board's behavior. A few of them admitted they had known all along that the pool wasn't technically part of the HOA property, but they had gone along with the story because it benefited them. As for Karen, I heard she put her house on the market about 6 months after the incident. Apparently, she couldn't handle the embarrassment of being known as the person who cost the HOA thousands of dollars and got kicked off the board. This summer, I'm enjoying my pool in peace. I've even hosted a few pool parties and invited some of the neighbors who were respectful throughout the ordeal. It's nice to know that standing up for yourself actually works sometimes, even when faced with an entitled HOA that's used to getting its way. The ironic cherry on top? With all the improvements I've made, my pool is now way nicer than anything the HOA could have maintained with their limited budget. Sometimes I catch glimpses of people staring enviously from the common area beyond my fence. I just wave and continue enjoying my pool on my property. The next one is a pro-revenge story. I want to start this off by clarifying that it is not my story. It's the story of someone very close to me, and I will leave out a large amount of specific detail because quite a bit of info is not mine to reveal. The build-up to the revenge is that this person had a horrible employer. She worked HR and managed payroll at what was effectively a nursing home. I don't know that they call themselves that, but it's what they are. The company had a bit of a good old boys club going on, with all of the highest level management being older men who all did less work and got more pay than pretty much everyone else. There were regular complaints from women about being mistreated, and many women were fired for absolutely absurd reasons, followed by their male coworkers getting raises. That in and of itself was bad, but it's not what instigated the need for revenge. What caused the burning desire to get back at the company was when the company fired my friend's manager, who was a woman, because she took a week off after literally breaking a leg, badly. The HR department was already badly understaffed, so my friend had to take on the responsibilities of this manager without any pay bonus. She requested a pay bonus multiple times, denied each time. A month or so later, the company hires a new manager to replace the old one at nearly twice the salary. This new manager is an older man. I'm not entirely sure what this guy actually did during the day because my friend continued to do all of the managerial tasks, and she knows that for a fact because the guy's account didn't have access to the systems he needed access to, and he never asked for that access. For 6 months, my friend showed this manager issues with their system, including payroll, and explained that she was not only the only employee who knew how to use the payroll system, but she was the only one with access to it. The sexist douchebag ignored her and made regular comments about how she was replaceable and useless. One day she loses her crap. She set up a bot with her credentials to automatically assign her pay each pay period, according to her actual salary, so not stealing or anything. She then carefully plans her next move and puts in her 2-week notice right before a large department-wide week off and right before her only co-worker has a 2-week vacation. She wouldn't have time to train the co-worker even if the co-worker was in the country. The manager still dismissed her, thinking he could just hire someone who knew what they were doing. Little did he know, she had tweaked with the payroll software over her time there. Nothing super awful, but it was very different from what the base software was. She was the only person who knew how to properly use it. And the only person in the whole company, including the CEO who had access to the necessary numbers to actually run the payroll. When she leaves after the 2 weeks, the company has 2 whole pay periods where they do not pay their employees. They can't. But my friend still gets paid because they never disabled her automatic payment thing. They couldn't. Eventually, they called her and basically begged her to consult with them on their payroll. For the past 6 months, she has been paid $250 an hour for 5 hours a week to run the company's payroll, fully remote, even though it was an in-person job before. And to top it all off, she doesn't even actually work the 5 hours. She wrote a script on her personal device to process payroll for her. She just has to press one button. She's working another job now, but damn, she really kicked them in the ass for their crap. The next one is a malicious compliances story. About 5 or 6 years ago, I built a fence in my backyard. I talked to my neighbors and we decided on a good place to build the fence. We knew an approximate property line based on some survey pins, but we're both too cheap to pay for a surveyor. We shook hands and I built the fence. It was a great deal for my neighbors. I paid for everything, built the fence, and all they had to do was give me a thumbs up when it was done. Then a year later, they sold their house. That meant I got a new neighbor. More specifically, I got Anne. Anne was from the big city. Anne was a realtor. Anne had flipped 8 houses in 12 years. Anne loved this new house and planned on staying for a long time, and Anne had a dog. Razzie was a German Shepherd mix that spent most of the day outside while Anne went to work. Razzie was aggressive towards children, animals, insects, and any plants that waved in the breeze. Razzie also, as Anne once told me, loved to chew on furniture. That's why Razzie stayed outside so much. About 6 months after Anne moved in, I saw a surveyor walking around in my neighborhood and he was paying special attention to my backyard. The next day, Anne showed up at my front door with a stack of papers and asked me if I was going to pay her for the 9 inches that my fence was encroaching onto her property. I explained the handshake deal with the last neighbors, but she was having no part of it. She wanted the fence moved or she wanted money, no discussions. She had spoken to her lawyer friend and was perfectly happy to take me to court over the fence. She told me, "I don't know how you guys do it out here in the sticks, but where I come from, we follow the rules." So I got rid of the fence. The next day, I unscrewed the horizontal rails from the brackets, stacked the fence panels up against my garage, and pulled up the fence posts with my work van. About a week later, Anne shows up at my front door again. She wants to know when I'm going to be building a new fence. Turns out, without my portion of the fence, she has not been able to let Razzie out unattended for fear that he will run away, attack something, or get hit by a car. She also told me she can't keep him in the house all day while she's at work anymore. Her furniture and carpet are all but ruined. I told her, "Well, Anne, I'm not going to be rebuilding the fence. I don't want any legal trouble, and the best way to stay out of trouble is to not build near your property." The look on her face was priceless. I thought she was going to cry. She probably did when she got back home. She tried to protest, saying that she really needed the fence back and she would even help pay for the new one. She told me how much she loved the style and aesthetic of the old one. It was just the location that she had a problem with. I stood firm. There would be no new fence. She never got a fence. She made half-hearted attempts to put up some bamboo fencing, but Razzie tore through that stuff like wet newspaper. Eventually, I sold my place and moved away. I took the old fence panels with me, and I still look at them every day when I let my dog out in the morning. The next one is an entitled parent story. Context: my birthday is December 28th, and my parents have consistently ignored it throughout my life. We usually visit family that lives 4 hours away during the holidays, or, more often than not, the weekend after the holidays if the holiday is in the middle of the week. This means almost every year, we are up there on the 28th. Sometimes it's not so bad, because the 28th is a Friday or a Sunday and we do the Christmas celebration on Saturday, but even then it still goes completely uncelebrated, and I am lucky to get a happy birthday from them. I've expressed my dislike of this subtlety throughout my life, but not as directly as I should have, until now. And even now I'm still not sure what to say. Additional context: they did the same crap at my wedding. We announced our engagement, and my sister decided to get engaged and announce hers right after us and hold her ceremony the same year, just slightly after us. Some family came in from across the country for her wedding, but not for mine. I have a sister who was born in early January and pretends to relate, but as far as I can remember, we've never had to celebrate the birth of what many people consider to be the Lord and Savior on the same day as when we celebrate her birthday. Mine, on the other hand, is usually a crapshoot on if I'm going to have a birthday or not. Here's how it usually plays out. We go visit my family the first weekend after Christmas. We stay at their house with my entire family. Big house, many rooms, big family. The whole family is there when 28th, my birthday, rolls around. We wake up, maybe one person acknowledges my birthday and said happy birthday, and if nobody else is around, that's all I get from anyone all day. If others are around and hear them say that, they'll throw out a half-hearted, "Oh, hey, happy birthday," and then move on to talk about Christmas dinner when we're going to open Christmas presents, how excited we are to watch the two kids, 15 and 17, open a mountain of gifts, etc. My birthday having yet again effectively been overshadowed by that long-haired stranger from 2,000 years ago nobody has ever met. I know I sound bitter and probably selfish, but if you knew anything about me, you would know things like this don't usually bother me. For my entire life, my birthday has been smashed together with Christmas. So many celebrations, or lack of, have passed by without fazing me. Many gifts have been forgotten, or worse, they do the "here's your Christmas present, it's also your birthday present" line. And so many well wishes have gone, well, unwished. Again, this stuff used to not faze me because I was really happy with just a simple happy birthday. That's all I would want, and it would make up for anything else. But this year, my parents have almost purposefully gone out of their way to duck things up for me. If you didn't know, Christmas this year is on Wednesday, making the 28th on Saturday. It's rare that my B-Day is on a Saturday, but it happened like 4 or 5 years ago, and it was awful, particularly because Saturday is always the chosen delayed Christmas day. My entire family was there. My wife wished me happy birthday. My parents did. I think my sister did, and that was it. The entire rest of the day, my birthday was just Christmas to everyone but my wife, who went out of her way any way she could to try and make me feel special. She asked why I wasn't really that upset about it until now, and I said I guess I was just used to it my whole life, but now that it's literally my family's Christmas day on my B-Day, which happens every now and then, I was pretty disheartened. Watching a couple of entitled, somewhat spoiled kids who already have everything in the world open a mountain of gifts on your birthday would probably hurt your feelings too. So, knowing that the 28th was a Saturday this year, I told my mom when we were doing the family holiday planning, could you please try and schedule our trip to the family the weekend after Christmas, after my B-Day? So we would be doing family Christmas on like New Year's or something. She said sure. I said it doesn't matter what day, just not the Saturday after Christmas, any day but my birthday. My wife even chipped in and said he hasn't had a birthday in over 5 years, please don't plan it for his birthday again. My mom pretended to care and said she would try. She calls me a few days ago and said my sister can only get her stepson the weekend after Christmas, so we will probably break it up and they will likely go up on the 28th and we'll go on the following weekend. Fine, my entire family won't be there for Christmas, but hey, I see my sister all the time, no big deal. At least I can have actual Christmas with my parents, celebrate my birthday with my wife, then go see my family the following weekend for delayed Christmas. Right? Wrong. Today I was in the neighborhood, so I stopped at my parents' house. We got to talking, and my mom brought up our Christmas plans. She said, hey, since we are breaking it up, we're probably only going to go up once instead of both times. Is that okay? Not knowing what she was getting at, I said, sure, why would that be an issue? And she said, okay, so since your sister has her stepson on the 28th, we'll probably go up with her then. Already, I was a little disheartened because somehow she found a way to do damn near the exact opposite of what I'd asked and organized the family Christmas to be on the 28th. But I didn't know the extent. She said she wanted to go up only the once, and she chose that one time to be with my sister, and goes on to tell me about how that's when both my uncles, my aunt, my niece and nephew, and pretty much the entire family will be there. Flashbacks to my wedding silently play in my head. So quite literally, the one thing I asked for Christmas was to be able to have a birthday, and she does the exact opposite and finds a way to make my entire family forget about my birthday yet again. I'll be lucky if I even get a text from any of them, since they'll all be up there together without my wife and I, and we usually disregard our phones when we're up there. I know this sounds so bratty or self-absorbed, but you have to understand I have been dealing with this crap my entire life and barely said a word. She asked me what I want in my food. I say no dairy because it sets my wife's stomach on fire. She proceeds to put dairy in everything and scold me for not being grateful. She asked one year what kind of coat I wanted, and I said any classic button-up pea coat, doesn't matter, just not one with a zipper. She goes out of her way to get me a coat with a zipper so she can see if I'll be thankful enough. It's like my entire life, she's purposefully done these small things just slightly messed up because she wants to, I don't know, test my gratitude or some crap. My wife describes it best when she says, your mom knows exactly what she's doing when she completely disregards your wish. Just small enough so that you look like a jackass if you say anything about it, but big enough to let you know that she doesn't respect your wishes after you were directly clear about them. So now this will be something like the 5th birthday in a row that will be ignored, overshadowed by Christmas. Except this time, I won't even be with my family because I made a promise to myself and to not let them rope me into another, go up for your birthday, it'll be great lie. At least I'll be with my wife. And even though we have a combined total of $50 to our name, she's promised to make my 34th birthday special, considering my 29th, 30th, 31st, 32nd, and 33rd were ignored, and all the ones before that were at the very least uncelebrated. I believe her. As long as she says happy birthday, and I know she will, and as long as I get to wake up next to her, it will probably be the best birthday I've had since before the pandemic. I love that woman. For those of you who say 34 is too old to care about your birthday, duck you. You are special, no matter your age, and the day you were brought into this world is very, very important. To you Christmas babies out there, though I can never truly relate, please know that you're not alone as my family makes a habit of delaying Christmas to my birthday. Say a prayer or something to that hippie who was supposed to bring about world peace or whatever, then spend the rest of the day focusing on yourself. You deserve it. Thank you for letting me vent. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll